If you're someone who's starting an internship, or you have started an internship, or you're towards the end of your internship, this video is for you. A little bit of background about me. I've done about 6 internships in total, and I've added 5 to my resume, which I wanted to and felt relevant. And I've worked across different industries and done various different internships, which made me understand what are the things that I want for myself, what are the things I don't want for myself, and most importantly, I just want to talk about how to not waste your internship, because this is a very common thing that you might end up experiencing, especially if the internship is not fulfilling enough for you, or maybe you don't have enough work while going into the office again, which is a very common thing that happens. A lot of interns are just chilling in the office, have getting mugs of coffee one after the other, dilly-dallying and passing your time. But if you really want to make use of your time and actually learn things, these are the things that I look back and would not do and do to make the best use of my time while I'm there. Okay, so let's get into it. So the first week of your internship, you want to be observational. You should have a hawk's eye vision over the entire office. I'm not asking you to go be a spy, but be observational. The first one and a half week, you're supposed to just lean back. I'm not saying just become an introvert and just not make any effort to talk to people. No. Just be more observational in your nature. That way you understand what are the dynamics, and when your reporting manager is supposed to introduce you to the team or the department that you're working for, you will also understand the dynamic that your reporting manager shares with their peers. How are people in the office interacting? What is the atmosphere in the office like? Is it something that, okay, yeah, like people are just generally very quiet, there's like not much of interaction going on, or it just has a more relaxed culture as such? You get that sort of understanding. You will also understand how people work. You will also understand what are the roles and responsibilities of other team members in your own team and people around you. And that first week is more about interactions and getting to know people, because you will be meeting a lot of people. And just the fact that you have to remember so many names when you're new in the system, that takes a while, especially for me it did. So be observational. It will give you a lot of insights into things, and it will also help you not make a mistake, because you've already registered that data, you've understood and scanned the ground for all the possibilities of XYZ things. The second thing, and this is something that I'm guilty of too, the first 2 internships that I did, I remember I kind of started working on my own terms. Now, touching base with your manager towards the end of the day and the beginning of the day, and maybe sometime in the middle, is a good thing. I'm not saying become overbearing and just stand on the head every 5 minutes, because yeah, reporting managers also have other things to take care of. They are actually a full-time employee of the company if they're doing other stuff. What I'm saying is, when you enter into the office, obviously you will go greet your manager and you sit down with them and assess that, okay, for today, what are the tasks that I have to take care of? And always make sure you're noting it down. Don't just sit there and try to memorize so much data, because you're new in the system. Your reporting manager might also mention some keywords that you're not aware of. So it's always good to have, maybe you have your iPad or you have a notepad where you're taking notes. So with every single day, the morning you get in, you have a check-in with your reporting manager. What is the task for me today? They give you a certain task, you go through it, and in the middle of the day you might want to check in again just to see, hey, if I'm on the right track. Are things that is expected of me, is this something like, am I doing it correctly? Because if you don't get the feedback, and if you're doing everything wrong from the beginning, then you'll have to just redo and start the whole process. I did that mistake in my first 2 internships, where a task was given to me and I continued doing it on my own, which is okay, but also because I was kind of nervous to just keep walking up to my reporting manager and asking questions. But asking the questions is also very important. Ask questions, be in touch base with your RM. They will give you feedback, and that will help you streamline and understand your tasks better. And also, being in touch with your RM puts you in a good light that, okay, this person, or he or she, whoever's joined the organization under me, they see me as a mentor, they're coming to me for feedbacks, and they will definitely, more often than not, will be very happy to guide you. If you're an introvert at an organization, specifically if you're an intern, interns sometimes are treated like a stepchild. Don't get me wrong, a lot of companies with a good culture will treat you as a part of the team. But if you're working in a company where the culture is not that accepting, a lot of times interns are just treated as like, okay, yeah, help me with like this random task, blah blah blah. But if you want to be an integral part of the team and you want to show that you've made an impact being there for, let's say, however, even if you're there for like 1 month, you can do that. Even if you're there for, let's say, 2-3 months. Now ideally an internship is anywhere between like 2 to 3 months on an average, sometimes 6 months, but I'm talking on an average of like 3 months if you're in that sort of an internship. To show that you're an integral part of the team, you have to communicate with people. You have to be out there, and not just your reporting manager, you have to interact with people in the team. If there's a certain task that requires you to go to an accounts department or a finance department or some team member who is into content or editing or just any part or operations, etc., whichever department you're working on, having a good rapport with your team members also creates a loop of feedback which also goes to your manager, because you never know, your manager might just go and ask like, hey, what is the feedback on this new intern that has joined, to their peers. So having a good rapport and just going out there and understanding that your team members, what are they working on, because a lot of time the tasks that you have on hand will involve help not just from your RM but also from the other team members. You walk up to them, understand, hey, I'm new here, what do? Can you tell me a little bit about your work? If you have a doubt, you can always walk up to them and they'll be happy to help you. So your question, because they also understand you're new here, you might be a little nervous. So don't work in silos. Working in silos in an internship is very dangerous, because if you're working in silos, you have no feedback, you don't make an impact, at least in a parasocial and a social sense around you. And people might not have a good feedback about you as well, because they might think you are not really seen. And in corporate, the more seen you are, sadly, like your work might be really good, but if you're not seen and you're not heard, it can negatively impact how you are actually viewed in the organization. So remember that. The next thing is to keep a track of your progress, because trust me, I've done this mistake a few times, where you start an internship knowing that, okay, I'm going to give my 100%, I'm going to make sure that I do the XYZ, and you will be very diligent in the start, where you note down everything that, okay, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, and then maybe towards the middle of the month, you're like, yeah, okay, I remember all these things anyway, and by the end of 3 months, trust me, no matter how good of a memory you have, it will be difficult for you to recollect all the tasks that you did. Not that you won't be able to, but to be able to streamline the tasks would be difficult. So keep a track of your progress right from day one. You have a day where you've done nothing. It's okay, just write day 4 and just keep it blank. That's okay. But having a day wise or even a week wise is what I would recommend, because a day wise might be too much for some people. If you're given a project during an internship, it is extremely essential. Specifically, if you have an internship which is based on a project of, let's say, 3 months, in that case, having like a tracker to track your progress and also to show it and present it to your reporting managers will come in handy, because in a lot of organizations, you are required to show the progress that you've made. One of the positives of working in a corporate is that you should ask for more work. Now, what I mean by that is, I'm not saying ask for more work in a way that you're exploited to a point where you're actually working like a full-time employee. Now, ideally, you would want to show that you are a potential convert and they can absorb you in the system, but to go and ask for more work. And why? And what this indicates is that you're hungry for more. Now, whether this can be taken in a both positive and a negative connotations, but I'm just here to talk about the practicality of the whole of this, is that when you go and ask for more work, it shows that you can take a little more on your plate, which is very true about a lot of jobs. Like, you will always be overburdened in some way or the other. I've not come across any of my peers saying that they don't just have enough work. Like, it happens maybe in sometimes project-based sort of roles where you don't have a lot of projects. But in most jobs, you will be required to take a little more burden than you usually do. So if you want to show, and if you want to be absorbed in the company, you want to show that you are able to take on a little more, maybe more work than you usually would. And specifically for an intern, it shows, one, that you're curious, you're not afraid to take up more things, you can handle pressure, you can work on more responsibilities at the same amount of time, etc. Times in companies, your managers are so busy, they're so busy, they might just not have any tasks for you, and you can literally be invisible in a system. Like you can spend weeks in a system and still not have a task at your hand, because a lot of time your manager is busy and they will just give you ad hoc tasks if they're not a good mentor or they're not mentoring you properly. So in that case, you have to walk up to them and be like, hey, I don't really have a lot on my plate right now, I've completed this task, is there anything else that I can do? But try not to gossip, don't do that, and I'll tell you why. If you gossip and if you're an intern, you might think that, okay, I'm leaving this company, whatever. But if you're someone who wants to take the work out there seriously, and this just applies to full-time jobs also, try not to gossip at work, because trust me, every water cooler conversation that you're having, it's going everywhere. Everyone knows about the shit that you're saying. Keep that to yourself. Specifically, if you're an intern, you want to join this company, if you start gossiping about people, and if you trust people easily, and then that can literally hamper you being absorbed into the company as a full-time employee, because they understand that you're here for 3 months and you're already creating a chaos in a way and gossiping about people. So do we even want this sort of a person in our culture? This in a way can, if this falls into the wrong hands or falls into the ears of wrong people, it can negatively impact your overall profile. So if you're there for 3 months, just try not to I'm just saying, it's like your choice. You can go ahead and do that, but avoid. So I told you to keep a track of your progress. Keep a track of your progress, but make a PPT. Now, if you're in an internship where not a lot is required from you, but you still want to show that you have done something and you really want to try and make a good PPT. In a lot of my internships, usually I was required to present a PPT of what I have achieved and what are the projects and life projects that I was able to complete. And in some of the internship, it wasn't that serious, Okay, this is the thing. And towards the end of your stint, let's say 3 months, you're covering 3 months in the next 1 week, you can talk to your manager and be like, hey, I've prepared a PPT about the things that I've learned here and I would love to present it. You can formally mail them or you can talk to them in person, and you might want to have your RM and your maybe a senior leader in the same department to understand. A lot of companies would require you to do that upfront, but you can choose to do that yourself as well. Importantly, even if they choose not to absorb you in the company, that PPT is going to be useful for you when you leave that internship and you start applying for full-time jobs somewhere else. Lot of times, and you're not just going to do one internship your entire life, you're going to do multiple, and a lot of times what happens is you will forget the things that you did in the previous internship. So having a PPT where everything is so detailed and described, you can literally remember all the points. You can add it to your resume. You can make use of those points to prepare for an interview that you have. So no matter what you do, whether you get absorbed in the company or not, having a PPT at hand where you've written down everything is going to be beneficial. It's going to be beneficial. Showing initiatives. Now, I'm not saying you start interning in a company and then you've just made humongous changes which affects like the whole hierarchy, blah, blah, like that never happens. That never happens. But how do you show in an internship that you've made an impact? You show this, and this is a culmination of a lot of factors. How you interacted with people in the 3 months. What are the tasks that were given to you and how well you executed them? How many more tasks were you able to take? Did you bring or even suggest any changes which could like help the system? Did you show any results? If you're specifically working on a very niche and a very technical project, were you able to show certain numbers? Like if you're working, for example, in one of the internships, I worked in a fintech space where I was required to do the back end of a small fintech partner that we were working with, and there was a backlog because of certain KYC and CKYC details. So the certain percentage of people that were not being converted as your customers, and when you came in, what was the change in terms of percentage and what was the impact? How could you solve the bottleneck that you were facing? So this was one of the projects that I did. And I was able to show with the help of numbers. Remember, like if you can include numbers to validate and back your research and your task, it adds a lot of credibility, because just writing statements like, okay, I did this at your internship, it is not that impactful. Pivot tables, VLOOKUP, conditional formatting, etc. If you can show the data, see, by writing points, you can only do so much, but if you can show the data, when I did this campaign, make a pivot table, make graphs, do a VLOOKUP, conditional formatted, if you can streamline data, you can show the results, that is like, that's gonna hit the nail on the head. Period. I'm gonna come to my last point now. There are a lot of points that I can talk about, but like majority, I wanted to, focus on the things that will actually be impactful. The last but not the least, always make sure that you have been noticed by the entire office. And when I say this, that you're noticed by the entire office, I'm not saying do some weird shit and then you're like in the limelight of people or be the butt of the joke or whatever. But having good relations with people, like you want to make people remember that, oh, there was this intern at that time who was there and she was pretty good with the stuff. Like, you want people to know that you exist. You want people to know, oh, this intern there. And by the way, you're not going to be the only intern in the system. There are going to be many. So in a way, if the other interns are doing well and you're not, you're automatically going to be highlighted, and that's not a good look. That's not a good look. If there is an event in the office, if there is a Christmas party or whatever parties, etc., be there. Take the initiative. You might be like, okay, hey, what if I host this particular game in the office? Like, these small things, you think that they don't matter, but it puts you out there, and that will help you just to have a very holistic experience. And also, don't forget to have fun. Have fun in your internship. It's not all that serious. Like, it is serious, but you want to have fun, because if you're only going to be there for like 3 months or 6 months, why not have fun? Like, seriously. So these are the few things that I wanted to talk about with regards to how not to waste your internship. And I hope this helps, and I'll see you guys in the next video.